you don't want to keep hammering marketing messages, right? We have to, this all comes down to developing a great offer and then just putting that offer out in front of as many people as possible, knowing what it is that they've already tried, what they've already failed at, why have they failed, and why is your solution better than every other option out on the marketplace. Hey, it's Joel Irwin. Welcome to another very special episode of Sold with Webinars. And in today's episode, we are going to be diving into the next chapter, into the next preview of my new book, High Ticket Courses. So today we are going to be talking about how to target your ideal avatar, how to discover your ideal avatar for the first iteration of your high ticket course. And so I want to take you back into a little story on when this really started to make sense to me. So as I was, trying to scale my own agency, I had come up with all sorts of different ideas. I was running paid traffic, and we discovered, all sorts of different ways to sell a course. Obviously we were doing webinars to sell my course, and we were also doing some joint venture partners. And as I was going through this iteration of getting my message out to the market, I discovered something really, really interesting. So as I was trying to land more agency clients, really actually this happened before I started to launch my course. So I was trying to still generate my highest tier version of my offer, which was done for you. I had been, trying to run these ads, and I created a webinar to try and sell, get applications to my my high ticket coaching program and my and my agency funnel. Agency offers. And I remember it was just so difficult to get people to break through and to get that message to really break through. Now, as I was so immersed in the webinar world, I kind of missed the whole idea of market sophistication and market awareness. And if you've ever read books like Eugene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising, or if you follow Todd Brown, or lots of marketers talk about this. This is not a concept that I created, although I wish I would have. I mean, it's very brilliant, right? But these are the rules of marketing. You have different, in the world of marketing, you have your customers, your potential customers, who are in different phases of their customer journey, meaning they are either unaware of the problem or the solution. They are aware of the problem or the solution of the problem. They are aware of the solution, and they are in the consideration phase. Now, that was a very, very high level overview of what the market awareness level actually is, but it is very relevant to this story. So going back to the funnel that I was running for my client, to generate clients for my agency, I was running a long form webinar funnel, and it makes sense, right? Because I was the webinar agency. We had done dozens, and at this point we had done dozens and dozens of webinars for clients, and so I wanted to eat my own dog food, and rightfully so. You probably a good idea if you're selling webinars to build your own webinar, but I didn't truly understand market awareness and market sophistication. And so who I was trying to market to, this is really important for you, because as you start to do your own market research and plan your offers, you need to understand who it is that you're targeting. Now, that's a very broad context, but when you try and identify your who, you might think that your who is you might think your who, but you have to understand what your who already knows about the problems and solutions that exist in their market. That's really, really critical. That's more critical than kind of identifying your broad market, right? So as I was running ads to my own webinar, what I was doing was, in my mind, I wanted to educate people. I wanted to use this webinar to educate people about webinars and why webinars are so great for their business. And so that's exactly what I did. I ran ads. I said, hey, sign up for this free training. Learn why webinars can be so great, so effective for your business. And they would sign up. They'd attend the webinar. They'd sit through 60 minutes of the presentation. At the end of the webinar, I'd say, okay, great. Schedule a call. Let's book a call with me. And we'll discuss your product, your offer, to see if it's a good fit. And so in the back of my mind, what I was trying to do was I was trying to go after, coaches and experts, course creators, who had not yet considered webinars. So I was the person who was introducing them to webinars. Now, this matters a lot with your messaging, because if I'm speaking to that person who needs to be introduced to webinars, right, I got a lot of education that I need to get them to understand. They are not necessarily in an urgent situation where they want a webinar right now. And this was truly reflective in my advertising costs. So back in 2015, 2016, where advertising costs and, competition was much lower than what it is here today, I was paying $450 per application for this funnel, which was very, very high back in the day. So by comparison, I was paying about $100. A lot of my clients are paying between $80 and $150 to generate an application. So we're 4 times higher. And so when I started to really understand that I was doing way too much education, and that the person who I really wanted to track for done-for-you services or for coaching, they already knew about webinars. They already wanted a webinar. They'd probably already tried and failed to launch a webinar, and they just wanted some help. And the aha moment that I had for this was that, once I started to see how many users had been signing up for tools with marketing webinars, like Webinar Jam, Webinar, ClickFunnels had their own webinar platform, GoToWebinar, Zoom, there are, Easy Webinar, there were plenty of tools out there. Demio was another one. There were plenty of tools out there for the specific use case of marketing and sales webinars, and I just completely ignored that. That was the data that kind of was the aha moment for me. Oh my goodness, this is so expensive for me because I'm providing way too much education. And so as I started to uncover this, I wanted to figure out how to teach it. And so I was working with one of my mentors, Travis Sago, and he had this analogy. He talked about closest to the conversion hole, or he had this analogy where he talked about this golf course. I kind of morphed this analogy into what I call closest to the conversion hole. But what it really comes down to is understanding that when we start out and we want to validate our offers, there's usually a large enough segment of people who have tried and failed. And we want to speak to those people first because they are in an urgent situation, right? And those are the people that I would say are closest to the conversion hole. If we were to relate this as a golf analogy, right? I love golf. And it's if we want to target that, what is going to be easier to knock the golf ball in the hole? Is it going to be, a 1-foot tap where the ball is on the edge of the cup, right? And you just take your putter and you tap it in. The odds of you making that shot are very, very high. You're probably going to make it 99 times out of 100, right? And if we relate the cup to, making the sale, we want to figure out how can we find more of those balls that are sitting right next to the cup, right? And then as we start to get further and further and further away from that hole, meaning, okay, now we might be, a chip shot in. We might be 10 yards off the green, and, we want to chip it in, get it as close to the hole as possible, then putt it, right? Think about every single one of those shots that you take from the tee box to the bottom of the cup as one conversion that you need to make. Every stroke is a conversion that you need to make for your marketplace, right? And so the person who's closest to the hole is somebody who has already tried to get that solution, but they have failed, where you don't need to educate them on the opportunity. You don't need to educate them on why your solution is so great. The only thing that you really need to focus on is why is your solution better than everything else that they've tried and failed, right? And so this is the closest to the hole, closest to the conversion hole methodology that I talk about, and I talk about it in great detail in my book, because you have to understand who that first person is that you want to go after. Because if you can't get anyone to buy while you're targeting that close to the hole methodology, you don't want to keep hammering marketing messages, right? We have to, this all comes down to developing a great offer and then just putting that offer out in front of as many people as possible, knowing what it is that they've already tried, what they've already failed at, why have they failed, and why is your solution better than every other option out on the marketplace. that is who you really want to target first when you start to develop any sort of offer. And this is incredibly relevant for us in the high ticket courses space. Like whether we're, trying to attract, one-on-one clients or service clients or, coaching clients or high ticket course clients, whatever it is, we want to develop that offer messaging that targets the closest to the whole first. Does that make sense? So anyway, that's a nice little, story of kind of where I discovered the close to the whole methodology. Because the more education that you have to make to convert one of your customers, the more expensive it's going to be, and the more difficult it is going to be. Don't make the mistake that I made when I launched my own webinar. I was attracting the exactly wrong ideal client, and I was over-educating my market. Over-education is a very, very expensive lesson through direct hard costs with your advertising and paid media, and through time expense as well, because you are there are people who are willing to buy right now if they're presented with a compelling offer. So that is how we target our ideal avatar. Who has tried, who has failed. Anyway, hope this was helpful. So if you want, you can go get an electronic copy of my book. Go to book.highticketcourses.com, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care.